welcome to the Drexel Interview. I'm your host, Paula Marantz Cohen, speaking to you from the university's Picture Gallery. Today my guest is Chuck Barris, celebrated television producer and personality, creator of such shows as The Dating Game, The Newlywed Game, Treasure Hunt, and The Gong Show. Chuck Barris is also a novelist, memoirist, and songwriter, and has lived an unusually adventurous and varied life. This is a two-part interview. In the first part, we'll talk primarily about Chuck Barris's work in television. In the second, about his writing career and his experience after television. Chuck Barris, welcome to the Drexel Interview.
Thank you, Paula. Good to be
you are
here.
back to your alma mater because you're a Drexel graduate, so it must be, well, for us, it's especially nice to have you here.
It's especially nice for me, too. I like being here.
Well, being back here at Drexel must bring back memories, and I wonder if there's anything in particular walking through the campus and, you know, sitting here in our art gallery that makes you recall your student days?
Oh, I had a really good time at Drexel. I really did. But I'll tell you this, Paula, I've never seen the school expand the way it has. It's just miraculous, and I'm so proud of Drexel, little Drexel. It used to be this building, and if I applied for Drexel today, I wouldn't get in. I'm sure of that. I just know. I mean, the SATs are way too high, and I'm just so lucky that I graduated when I did.
Well, I want to start with your career in television. You're a trailblazer in this area. As I said, you're often said to be the father of reality TV, for good or ill. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about your entry into television, how it is that you got into the medium, and then we'll talk about your first show.
Well, I guess I started in the NBC management training program. I was a page before that at NBC in New York, and the management training program was strictly Ivy League. I got in, I was Drexel, and I got in. I was very proud of that, although I lied my way in. I said that I knew everybody on the board of directors of the RCA company. I had looked it up in the library, and I used them as references.
You named their names.
I named their names and used them as references, and I got right in. But anyway...
had you always had an interest in television?
Yes. Well, I figured there were two, when I graduated Drexel, there were two, I arrived at the opinion that there were two big industries, plastics and television.
Plastics like in The Graduate.
Plastics
Okay, yeah.
like in The Graduate, that's right. And I chose television because I thought plastics would be boring.
Okay.
And I was in this management training program, and right at some point in the program I was fired. They had a budget cut, and I was out. And then I went to ABC and became their spy on Dick Clark. Dick Clark was doing his show here in Philadelphia at the WFIL, I think.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be involved in a lot of payola, and I was the one that they sent down to keep an eye on him, which was very bizarre because I watched him from noon till 6, but what he did after I left and went back to New York,
So you were supposed to find something out by watching his show?
I was just watching his show.
Now, did you learn something from watching him and watching
Yes,
his show?
well, no, not very much from that. But I then went off. Then they promoted me for some reason or other, and I was put in daytime television. And at that time, ABC was trying to get in competition with NBC and CBS. And they were moving their schedule back from 4 in the afternoon to 3 to 2 to 12. And the way they did that was with game shows. And so they tried, the game shows were the staple because they could get a quick audience, and if they didn't get a quick audience, they were just dropped. And You had 13 weeks to survive, and I watched all these really dumb game shows.
Well, can you remember some of them?
Oh, so there was camouflage, and where you drew a person, and they were just awful. And I got sent out to California to open up a daytime television office out there, and I quit shortly thereafter and created the dating game, which I thought was infinitely better than all the other shows that I saw. And I liked the dating game because it brought a brand new element into television. Television at that time were all question and answer shows and stuff like that. And this was spontaneity. That was never, ever in television before. I mean, there wasn't a correct answer to a question on the dating game or the Newlywed Game. So when a person asked what your favorite sandwich might be, it could be anything. And you know, that was important. And the shows became big hits.
Did you know right away that if you could only get it on the air, it would be a hit? Or was it simply something that you thought, you know, would be fun, and you would come up with and you weren't sure about?
Well, I wasn't sure that anything that I created would be a hit. The dating game was very strange in that we had all these clean-cut boys and girls playing the game. The three bachelors were always wholesome guys. The girl was a Doris Day type, and in the first 3 or 4 shows, the language they used was abominable. I mean, it was awful.
You mean off color?
Off color, the hugely so, and
these were seemingly clean-cut, all-American.
Absolutely, and the powers that be at ABC called me in and said, we can't go on with these shows if they're like this. And that was my first major problem. And the way I solved it was I had a friend of mine dress in a trench coat and a Stetson hat, and he came in and he warned the contestants that they could be sent to jail and be fined $10,000 if they said dirty words on federal-controlled airwaves, which was totally made up by me.
Scared them to death.
Scared them.
Now, did you have to do that before each set of contestants?
For a while, because
and then it filtered down.
when a show is on the air for a while, it has its own rule. You know, you know what to do.
Right.
And that was that. The Newlywed Game.
The Newlywed Game, I love what you said. You said it's the simplest and most perfect television recipe. All you need are 4 couples, 8 questions, and a washer dryer.
That's exactly right. That was, I mean, how simple can it get? I mean, that to me is the best game show format ever. To be 4 couples, 8 questions, and a washer dryer.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, everybody would ask me, why don't you give away boats and cars and things like that? Because if we did that, the couples would have killed each other. I mean, they would have broken each other's heads with those cards.
Yeah.
if the prizes were really substantial.
As it is, you really did anticipate what we've seen in television, and we're going to get to that in the second part of our interview, how the whole game show aspect can escalate to a point where people will do practically anything to get whatever that reward is. And you saw that, I guess I would ask you, and you sort of answered it, but maybe you could elaborate, what you learned about human nature, both from the dating game and the Newlywed Game.
Well, I think that, I always thought that contestants would really do almost anything to be on the air, to get their 15 minutes of fame. People at their office could watch them, their families could watch them, stuff like that. But I always thought also that you should treat them with respect, as much respect as you could treat a game show contestant, which I thought there was a lot of respect that they should get, and consideration and stuff like that. What I was accused of doing was making fun of these people, which is something I never ever really tried to do. The Gong Show was separate. I mean,
you're putting that aside.
Yeah,
now
let's put that aside
okay.
for a moment. And that again wasn't anything we did. That's what the acts did. But our contestants were treated with a certain amount of respect. We would never make fun of them or do anything like that. And I think that's the difference. Somewhere along the line, the game showdom switched over to a point where contestants now on game shows are just disrespected and made all sorts of terrible things are done to them, and they keep reappearing.
And it's not really necessary because, of course, they can reveal themselves on their own. They don't need to have the show or the host do it to them.
Well, that's true.
Seems.
I never watched American Idol. I remember having an interview with a Fox person, and that person said to me he couldn't get over that I had never seen American Idol.
And you still haven't seen it?
No, I still haven't seen it. He said, "You haven't seen it?" I said, "No." He said, "You haven't seen it?" And I drove him crazy over this whole idea that I haven't seen American Idol. But that guy Simon, whatever his name is, he just makes fun of people, and he has built a reputation on doing that, and
Goes against the grain for you.
I cringe.
Well, but let's get to the Gong Show.
Okay.
I think we have a clip from that. And you wouldn't say that, you say that it's the nature of the acts themselves, and people on that show knew what they were getting into, and therefore it was not you.
No.
Yet it was very different from other shows on television, and very different from any show since then, I think, as well. Could you tell us a little bit about the idea behind it? And
when I was asked to do a variety show by one of the networks, I forget which one, NBC, I think, and I went out looking for acts for this variety show, and I didn't find anything that was really good. So I decided to go back. I went back and I said to them, "Let me do bad acts. I mean, I can't find anything good. Let me do acts that are really bad." And they thought I was crazy, but at that time I had a bunch of shows that were on the air, so they went with me. And I got, these bad acts to come down to the studio. I had an occasional good act so that the bad acts could really look bad, and then I went ahead and did the Gong Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Gong Show. You're in for a treat. Here comes such a good act. Ladies and gentlemen, the Sunbeams.
The Gong Show was, if I were doing the show today, I would have showed our rehearsals, because our rehearsals had acts that were totally unacceptable, and today they would have been accepted. Today they would.
They would have been the show, whereas the acts you had on probably.
That's right.
Would have not,
That's right. Exactly. But the Gong Show. I'll just stay with the Gong Show. The Gong Show, when an act would come on that wasn't, we had a lady who I thought was really great. She came out and she had a box on her head, and all she did was sing a song with this box on her head. She got gonged, but I thought that was brilliant. I mean,
sort of